Welcome to No Collide. I am your host, Fredo.
I'm your host, Mo Money.
And I'm your host, Mills.
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest with us tonight that's going to be vibing with us, man. We got PFL MMA upcoming fighter, man. Isaiah Pinson rocking with us.
Salute.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, bro. Look here, man. We're not gonna waste too much of your time, bro. But look here. Who were your biggest influences growing up, bro?
So all right, so I was a football player. So growing up, I didn't watch a lot of fight sports when I was coming up, but I do remember some of the UFCs like Brock Lesnar, Alistair Overeem, John Jones when he was like starting his thing. So I remember like randomly catching some UFC fights on Spike TV back in the like when I was coming up. And then always a big influence on boxing. I remember very like not vividly, but like a little bits and pieces of Tyson Holyfield back in the 90s. Yeah, and I would have been 3, maybe 4, but I do remember like being at my grandfather's house in Maryland, watching that fight like with my family. So boxing was a big thing for my household growing up. Would just randomly catch fights. Like I know my dad loved Evander Holyfield growing up, which I think is also why my style is definitely more striking and like boxing based more than everything else.
That's what's up,
Do you
bro.
remember the cussing that night? Bullshit, it was a bite.
I don't like that's what I'm saying. Like it was bits and pieces, but like I do remember us all being there to watch that fight. My dad
That's
actually
part
would
of where
tell
I
me
get
stories every once in a while.
My nickname from Mills Lane.
That's right.
No, you
Yeah,
didn't know
former
that.
referee.
Let's get it
peace,
on.
Mills
Rest
Lane.
in peace. Rest in peace, Mills Lane. Absolutely. My goodness, man.
Hey,
So look here.
Isaiah.
Go ahead, fam.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Isaiah, MMA is so brutal. Now, I'm a boxing lover, and now as I age, I think that's brutal. What was it about that style and that technique of fighting that intrigued you?
Good question.
All right. So I will start by saying I actually think that boxing is a little bit more brutal because you can take a lot more damage. The glove it's heavier. It's a bigger glove. So I feel like those guys usually end up with a little bit more brain damage at the end of it because if you think about it, with the heavier ounces of the glove, you can actually take a little bit more damage before it starts to show. Whereas in MMA, I mean, you see a lot of guys get knocked out, but that's just your body shutting down. And then you recover and you're back too. Also, having done a lot of boxing sparring, boxers hit a lot harder. They hit a lot harder because when you're not worried about takedowns.
All of that.
I will say a kick does not feel that great. It really doesn't. Like eating a kick to the liver or something like that, it doesn't feel great. But the reason why I kind of fell into this was, although I grew up loving boxing, watching a lot of boxing with my family, when I finished playing football in South Carolina, I needed something to do to get in shape and stay active. And the only thing I could find was like a Muay Thai gym. So kickboxing and Muay Thai. So I started with that. I really wanted to box, but I just started with that and kind of fell in love with the sport of kickboxing. And so when I moved out here to Vegas 2 years ago, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew I wanted to be a professional fighter. I had my first fight in South Carolina, and I was like, cool, I want to fight. This is what I want to do. And so I moved out here with all intentions of becoming a boxer. But sometimes when you're trying to pave your own way, like you don't know what moves to make, you don't know what connections to make. Boxing seemed like, because I moved out here at 26. So, you go into the gym, you tell them how old you are, you tell them how long you've been doing it. And a lot of people are just kind of like, man, it's going to take a long time to learn the art of boxing. Time wasn't really on my side. So with my kickboxing background, honestly, it seemed like transitioning over to MMA was a smoother, faster transition. And I got extremely lucky when moving here to link up with the wrestling gym that I'm currently at, Anesthetic Training Club, with some really high level wrestlers, but also the coach I'm currently working with right now, Francisco Bueno, being a coral belt in jiu-jitsu, so a 7th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. So I got to skip some of the earlier struggles of grappling and work with some really high level people to kind of round out my game. And it's still not fully rounded out from an offensive perspective, but I do feel a lot more comfortable grappling defensively. So when Francisco saw me a year ago,
Uh-oh.
Okay, yeah, we look. Okay, yeah, he's coming back. He's back. He's
There we
back.
go. There we go.
There we
Yep,
go.
sorry.
We're back.
Yeah,
Do not disturb on my phone. But yeah, Francisco looked at me. He was watching me strike. I was kickboxing with a guy making his pro debut, just to get some sparring rounds in to help him out for his camp. And he was like, if you give me 3 months, I can make you comfortable on the ground. And at that point, I was almost ready to just pack everything up and move to Thailand anyways. So I was just like, I don't have anything to lose. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just start working with you. And here we are a year later. I did my first pro fight in MMA last year. And then my second and third fight were for the PFL. So,
All right, I got one more question. Are you more Jean-Claude Van Damme or Tong Po?
It's been so long since I've seen the movie. I'm not gonna lie. It's been so long.
I'm aging myself. I'm sorry.
I had to think about it, and I've seen them. But it's been so long. I can't even give you an honest answer.
No worries. Tong Po was scary as a mug.
If we're gonna be honest, man, I personally don't think that I intimidate anybody that I've fought so far.
I don't know about that, man.
Maybe my first pro fight.
Yeah.
Maybe my first pro fight, but at least the two in the PFL. The first dude was a 6'9" Brazilian. And then the other one was Olympic level wrestler. The guy fought Denzel Freeman in June. Freeman. You know, he's like 260 and, you know, Marine Corps guy. I don't think I intimidated anybody. So it's.
Yeah, but you intimidated them enough to win. You're 3-0.
It's always, look, it's different once we get in there, the bell rings, and then we start fighting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So speaking of PFL, where can we find your fights at? Are they on channels, on ESPN? Where can we find it?
So my first PFL fight, you can actually find it on YouTube for the Challenger Series. If you type in Isaiah Pinson PFL on YouTube, look for the 3-hour long Challenger Series broadcast.
Okay.
At about the 50-minute mark is going to be my fight. That would have been my second pro fight there. No,
was it
Vitor Resende?
Okay.
Yep, 6'9" Brazilian cat, black belt. You know, supposed to be a world beater. So that was a good fight, man. That taught me a lot.
Was it? And that was what? Split decision?
No, I won that one by unanimous decision.
That was unanimous. Okay, gotcha.
I think so far that was probably the best performance I've put together. Because also, no disrespect to any of my previous opponents, that was the first time I had to fight, man. I had 6 amateur fights. Kind of moving out here, moving up to heavyweight, it was starting to become hard to find fights.
And you're in Vegas, right? It's for the viewing.
Yep, I live in Vegas now. There's not a ton of it. It's starting to pick up now, but there wasn't a ton of amateur fights out here when I first moved here. So I'd have to go to Utah, Arizona. And then it was also like I decided to start fighting right before COVID happened. So it was like I start training, boom, we get hit with COVID. And then I have my first fight like in September of 2020 was the very first time I was able to get a fight. So it was hard to find fights. So when I fought Vitor on 4 weeks notice, that was the first time I had to fight. That was the first person, because up until that point, you get in there and it was just like, I was getting frustrated because I was fighting these dudes and I was like, man, I worked way harder than like, this wasn't a good showcase. It didn't feel like the opponent was a good showcase of like what it was that I could do. I didn't challenge myself until I fought Vitor.
Hold on, man. No, you know what? We're gonna come back to all that, man. We skipped over something, bro. Because first and foremost, bro, I mean, you was a hell of a football player at the Citadel. I mean, we got to talk about this, man. I mean, what red shirt freshman year, 2014, you started 12 games. Your sophomore year, you started 13 games. Junior season, bro, Walter Camp All-American, first team AFCA All-American, second team Stats All-American, second team Hero Sports All-American, Southern Conference Jacobs Blocking Award. I mean, come on, bro. I mean, damn.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Now football was like my first passion.
You better believe it.
What's your position? What was your position?
I was a left tackle. Actually, very undersized, but very great scheme. So the offensive scheme that we were in, being triple option, was perfect for my size. That coaching staff that came in was okay, that we were really undersized. And what's not listed on there from a team perspective is, I think for 2 years, those first 2 years I started, I think we were number 2 in the nation for rushing yards per game. And then my senior year, we were finally number 1 for rushing yards per game, with an offensive line that probably weight-wise averaged out maybe at 275.
Wow.
Like, I think our
Was it more of
center
a
might
zone
have been the
blocking
heavy.
team?
No, we were man blocking.
Wow.
Man blocking, triple option, big on big. Yeah, move bodies, veer, get to the, like, I wasn't the best base blocker, but my ability to veer and get to the linebacker, get to the safety, veer and bend, and then we could still cut block during that time. So that was huge. That was huge for us, man, because us being smaller but a little bit quicker, we might not be able to move you off the ball, but we could cut block. And we had good running backs during that time. So yeah, football definitely was my first passion. However, it's no surprise to anyone I played ball with that I fight now, because we used to fight all the time at practice, and I used to fight anyone and everyone at practice.
Wow.
So it's like
So-
fighting probably truly was the passion my entire life.
So when you would fight at practice, I would think that it would start with like wrestling. But did you like go for the head first? Like, what was your?
Oh, 100%. Our coaches had one rule, and it was like no kicks. And so at that point, like nobody, like when I think about it, nobody really was throwing anybody around, man. We were just dumb throwing hands. Like, everyone's got on helmets, but it didn't matter. Everybody's out there like grabbing face masks and throwing hands. And like, we used to have, yeah, I do remember. Oh my gosh, what's his name? There was this big cock diesel defensive end that we had, and we got into a scrap one day. And this man grabbed me by my face mask, and he was strong, bro. He grabbed me by my face mask, lifted my face mask up halfway, so like my chin strap was stuck on my face. And this man was just throwing uppercuts, just holding my face mask and was just throwing. And I'm just over there, just like, just throwing punches. I have no idea how to fight at this time, like no clue. Had never trained to fight, so we're just out there on just sheer instinct.
Oh my God.
No, we were a gritty team.
So what were some of the what were some of the toughest teams that you played back then? Because obviously you played Division I schedule. I mean, like toughest teams, toughest opponents. Any players that you played against that's in the NFL currently right now?
All right, so we did play number 1 Florida State in 2014. So that would have been Jameis Winston, Dalvin Cook, and those guys.
Yes.
That was the first time, because that was my first year starting, and probably game number 2 or 3. We were their home opener, so we were their first home game. And like my high school in South Carolina, Burns High School, was nationally ranked in the early like 2010s and stuff like that. So I played at a really good high school. So I'm used to like loud crowds and stuff like that. Man, when we went to Florida State, I remember like sitting there in my stance, and the quarterback's calling a play, and we can't hear him. Like, so I'm 2 guys down from him, and I'm like, huh? What? And Florida State was the first time when I got to college, and I was like, all right, there's a huge just athleticism difference between D1 AA and then like D1 that's like broadcast on TV every day. Because man, those boys were effortlessly fast. Like we were just all moving at 2 different speeds. But within the conference, man, Wofford was always solid. Wofford was a tough put us. One of my favorite pictures is like one of the most heartbreaking moments I've ever had in sport. We lost to Wofford by half of an inch, like maybe the length of a fingernail. Final play, offensive line, we botched the block, trying to run a quarterback draw. The guy we were supposed to block makes the tackle. Quarterback, if the ball's in the quarterback's other hand, we win. And it's just the ending of Friday Night Lights, when all the guys are just kind of like on a knee and everybody's just kind of like in shock. There's a picture, I think that was on the front page of Post and Courier after we lost, of like the offensive line, like all 5 of us, like some of us are on our knees, some of us are just kind of standing there with like hands on the knees, and it just the pain.
I can imagine.
And so, but Wofford was always good. UTC Chattanooga was a very good football team. I can't remember who the coach was. He left not long after I graduated.
Owens went there too.
He did.
Yeah.
It was an underdog and made his whole story from UTC. Okay. And the sleeper, man, was Charleston Southern. That was an in-town
Yeah.
Well, we
rival.
familiar with Charleston Southern, don't we?
Yeah.
Man, Charleston Southern, because our coaches, when they won the D2 national championship and they came to us, um, whoever it was that they had beaten right before they came to us, that coach went to Charleston Southern. So they had been playing each other scheme for 4 to 8 years. So every time we went to Charleston Southern, that coach knew how to stop our offense, which honestly, to stop the triple option, it's not very hard. Do your job. That's it. Literally do your job, and it's an extremely hard day for us. If you want to be a superstar and you want to make the plays, we're going to eat you alive because there's too many motions. You don't know where the ball is. But if you take your man on every single play, it makes it hard for people to run the option. Man, Charleston Southern would come out and put it on us. Like, it was an in-town rival. I don't think I ever beat Charleston Southern the entire time I was at the Citadel. Not like, I think 0-3 against Charleston Southern. They put us out of the playoffs one year.
Wow. Yeah, we had a couple of guests that used to play basketball from Charleston Southern as well. So, wow, they got a strong program. I didn't even know all this. I didn't know they was that good in football. But damn,
I think they won a couple championships in football when I was there, because they were D1 up, but they were in a different conference. So we were in the SoCon. They moved to they were in a different conference, and I think they won a couple championships while they were there. They had a solid program. I personally still don't like Charleston Southern. It's a taste I'll never be able to get rid of. Like I said, I don't have a losing record to anyone, maybe Wofford, but even then we had some wins over Wofford, some big wins. Like, that's the only team that I have to live with and be like, man, we never beat those dudes.
Wow.
Man, 2010 was a good time in South Carolina football. 2010, 2013. Steve Spurrier was at the University of South Carolina. Jim, I want to say Clemson's head coach was about on the horizon. So during that time, it was a lot of talent. If you look at that talent that came out of the state during that time, you're talking Mike Williams. You're talking, that was a little bit before Deshaun Watson, but it was a lot of talent. CJ Spiller was back then. So a lot of talent. Gilmore.
Marcus Lattimore.
Lattimore. Gilmore was at USC.
I went to the same high school as Marcus Lattimore.
Oh my gosh, he had so much promise. If it wasn't for that knee injury,
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if Marcus Lattimore didn't get hurt in college, I think he would have been, because he was already the top running back of his class in college, man. So that was, but yeah, Marcus Lattimore and Jadeveon Clowney played at South Point, and I got to see him we were at a scrimmage, man. And like I said, my high school was nationally ranked. So like, we played the Hoovers, we played Apopka, St. Thomas Aquinas, like all of that.
Ooh, yeah.
So no one on our team or anyone on the field that day could block Jadeveon Clowney. That dude was a man amongst boys when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Like,
what I don't understand about him, Isaiah, and Mo, you probably, like I said, Mo, I know you're gonna jump in as well. It just seems like it hasn't translated to the NFL on a consistent basis. I don't know what it is, or am I missing something? It just seemed like, I mean, his gift and his dominance that that we know that he just hasn't transpired in the NFL. It's just been, like I said, inconsistent roller coaster ever since he entered the league.
I mean, from my perspective, and you could chime in, Isaiah, but Fred, he's just a freak, but he never actually learned how to play the game. Like, he don't know the nuances about football. Like, he don't have, like, if you look at him, what is his go-to pass rush move? What is his counter? He don't have one. He was just faster, bigger, stronger, faster. So, but yeah, Isaiah, what's your opinion on it?
I guess my opinion, without diving into it that deep, which is a good assessment, but I'm also like, injuries. Yeah. You got to think, like, injuries, some people recover from them, some people don't. It slows people down. And that's one of the things, if you look across all sports, he who is the most athletic but hasn't fully developed a well-rounded game will be plagued with injuries, and that'll change their entire game. Yeah. So it's like, if you haven't developed those counters, if you haven't learned how to play chess instead of checkers, then when you lose that step and you lose that athleticism, you don't look as great. And that's another difference as the levels move up, is it's, in college, you can still get away with being extremely athletic, but once you get to the pro level of just about any sport, man, it's like the playing field on athleticism is pretty even. So it's, can you play chess, not checkers? Can you outthink the other man? Who's the most durable?
Wow. Okay. So look here. What is the difference between PFL MMA to UFC?
All right. Biggest rule difference is going to be you can't throw elbows in the PFL. No elbows in the PFL. And I've never asked anyone there the exact reason, but I'm gonna throw out my own reason of what I think. So the PFL does a regular season $1 million like chase, right? So their whole thing that makes them extremely different, so this is the second difference, is they offer the champion of each weight class a chance to make $1 million. But your champion isn't a sitting champion for a year. It's you fight, you win that year, cool. Then they have a certain number of people that they allow to enter the regular season to try to acquire points for the next season. So their big thing is 4 fights in 8 months. So you fight every 2 months once the season starts. And the goal is to win $1 million. So November 24th, PFL is going to be in DC doing their championship. Like it's the final round, like it's the championship round. So 7 weight divisions. It's like 6 or 7 weight divisions. People fighting for $1 million. It's going to be the top 2 in their divisions for the year. So when you're fighting every 2 months, you don't want to have people recovering from cuts and stuff like that. So that's why I think the elbows are out for the PFL, because we're used to seeing elbow knockouts a lot, especially like in UFC. But the ties they're not really looking to knock you out with an elbow. Elbows are meant to cut. Because a fight can be stopped because a cut is too bad and stuff like that. So a lot of elbows typically are used as like slicing elbows. We just have been privileged to see some awesome knockouts from elbows, but that would be my thought as to why. You don't want somebody having to deal with like a little annoying cut if they're trying to fight again in 2 months.
Okay.
Dang.
You guys have any questions? Or
Yeah. So when is your next fight?
Man, we are playing the business game right now, man. It's I've done the fights on my contract. I'm with the PFL still. They didn't have room to get me on a card at the end of this year. So we will see. We might just pick up another just like small regional fight in the year, but I am still on contract with the PFL. I don't want to sit. That's my big thing.
right.
I'm still like I said, I'm 1 year into MMA, 4 years into like just learning how to fight in general. I started striking 4 years ago. So I still have a lot to clean up in my game. So I don't want to just sit on the sideline until January, February next year. So I've actually been speaking with my manager. That's one of the conversations we had the other day as well. It's like, what are we going to do? So we have a couple of different like promoters that we know we can talk to get a fight. Honestly, I'll throw it out there. I'm kicking around considering and trying to see if we can figure out how I can fight December 2nd in Charleston. Since I lived in Charleston, I would love to have an opportunity to fight in Charleston. That's where the Citadel is. And I had 8 or 9 of my friends come to Atlanta in June. When they saw I was fighting in Atlanta, they drove from Charleston, Greenville, Woodruff. It's all different parts of South Carolina, and there was like 8 or 9 people in the arena there for me. So it'd be awesome to be able to just fight in Charleston.
I think so. Downtown would love it, man. Let me know. I'm from King Street, so let me know if you're gonna fight.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Conflict MMA fights in downtown Charleston. So I actually asked my old coach in Charleston yesterday. I was like, hey, just throwing it out there. We're not making any moves yet, but like, can we see what type of opponent we can put together for December 2nd?
Okay.
Can you ever have you ever seen an opponent where you want to kind of call out, like you want to fight them, or it doesn't work that way? You got to go through the business network.
All right, respectfully to a lot of the guys in the PFL, but man, I texted my manager a laundry list of people that I was like, like I'll fight this dude, I'll fight this dude, I'll fight this guy. Even when I was watching the last heavyweight show, I texted my manager, I was like, hey, bro, we'll fight this dude, we'll fight this guy. And I'm very like honest with myself about my skills, my abilities, almost to a fault, man. People around me, my friends are always like, bro, you don't give yourself enough credit. So like I'm a perfectionist. So when I look at myself and I'm looking at some of these other guys, I'm like, bro, I can beat this guy. But then there are also some guys where I'm like, I got too many holes in my game. I think I could beat anyone. And if they're like, hey, you got to fight this guy, my manager's like, we're going to do it. And my coach is like, because that's the big thing for me is I trust my coach. I don't accept any fight without first consulting those two together. Because with my manager, it's like, yo, does this make business sense? Because for me as a fighter and as a competitor, I'm like, hey, bro, this is what I train to do. Like, let's go. But then my coach is going to know me and my game a lot better, and my manager is going to understand the business side of it and what the bigger picture is. And so if they both are like, yeah, then I'm like, yeah. But yeah, I know there's some guys that I'm like, I still got some holes in my game.
Right.
Give me another year. I believe I'll be ready. But there's also a lot of guys where I'm like, I can fight these guys.
Isaiah, so which current MMA fighter or UFC fighter did you aspire to be in terms of style?
All right. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Have you seen me fight?
I have never seen you fight.
I've seen the fight that you against Denzel.
There we go.
Okay.
One against Denzel. Yeah.
Because I honestly, John Jones or Israel Adesanya, those are my two guys. And I'm not gonna jump off. I'm not gonna jump off the Izzy bandwagon. I love Izzy. However, I would want to fight like Izzy back when he was fighting Paulo Costa, Robert Whittaker the first time, and stuff like that. Not so much after Paulo Costa, because he's turned into more of a counter puncher. He always was, but he used to be aggressive at times. But even his fights with Alex Pereira, I don't like the backing up, putting his back on the cage, relying on his head movement and trying to counter. But other than that, like his crispness of his striking, his accuracy, his ability to set stuff up. And then John Jones is probably, arguably, if you remove all of the outside of the cage stuff, one of the greatest to ever do it. So it would have to be those two, because also they're more striking based. I like striking. That's
how's your ground game?
My ground game is okay. Game is okay. Feel confident in my wrestling defense. And I feel confident in my jiu-jitsu defense. Don't ask me to take anybody down right now. Even though my coach has seen me, so my coach is like, I believe you can take somebody down, but it's not in my mind. And maybe I can fish for a submission, because awkwardly enough, my first pro fight ended in a submission. I got a key lock. I had only been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 or 3 months. But like I said, with my coach being a Coral belt, you get to learn a lot of different stuff at a different pace, right? So like, think about if you start something out, if you're learning from, because jiu-jitsu goes white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. Then you have different degrees of the black belt. So your game is going to be different if you're a white belt learning from a blue belt. It'll be different if you're learning from a purple, a brown, or even like a new black belt. The fact that my coach is a 7th degree black belt, the stuff and his style is so different from a lot of people. The stuff he's been able to show me, I'm not a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I'm not great, but I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable, confident, and competent in positions on the ground, how to get out of stuff. Except for when I'm rolling with him, he's freakishly strong. Doesn't make sense. He ragdolled, like just yesterday, bro. He just ragdolled me around, and I'm like, bro, I'm like 250, and my other guys that I'm rolling with are like, man, you're heavy. My coach grabs me and it's just like, nah, I want you here, and you're here, and just like throwing me around.
Wow.
But I spent a lot of time.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've spent a lot of time working on my grappling. Because we knew coming into this that like, hey, that's not our strong point. So now I'm like, I feel comfortable defensively. And I think it showed in the Denzel fight. The big thing they talked about was he was a Taekwondo guy, but also Olympic level wrestling. He didn't get any of his Greco throws, and he got 2 takedowns. And when I watched them, both of them were my fault. The first one was phenomenal, that blast double off the fence, but I was in the middle of talking shit. Because I think he had just kicked me, and so I looked at him and I was like, nah, big dog, and so he just ran me across the cage. But the second one, I just got too anxious. I felt like I was chasing him for too long, and when I finally got him to the cage, I went to explode in. He slipped, and instead of me maintaining my distance as I was throwing my punches, I ended up like chest to chest with him. And when you're chest to chest with a wrestler, man, like you're just asking to be taken down. And I knew better than to get that close, but in that moment, it was just like I was just too anxious and just wanted to hit him. So, but you live and you learn. But I think 2 for 8 or 9 against a wrestler is fine. And then when I fought Vitor, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He got me down. in the third. He finally got me down in the third round. Took my back. I shook him off the same way I did Denzel the first time. Tripod up, shake him off, and so negated his jujitsu as well, and just got back up. So I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable on the ground in a defensive perspective. Soon you guys will see me like throw some punches on the ground and like play in that game a little bit. But
The
for now,
guillotine and all that stuff, right?
hey man, I'm more of an Americana arm,
Okay,
I'm an
okay,
arm
gotcha.
triangle
Okay.
guy, but like I like the big
I
man
gotta get
submissions.
the MMA dictionary out so I understand. I know what a sweep is. I know the sweep. I know that. But look, I want to know, what did your family have to say about me? Obviously, that you've been an athlete, but to fight for a living, did you get any pushback?
Not pushback, but my mom was vocal about like, hey, I definitely wish you would do something different.
Right.
Shout out to
Don't hit my baby in the face.
Yep. Look, she was
Shout out
like,
to Mama Nathan.
she laid my whole life out in front of me. She was like, look, like you went to the Citadel, you graduated early, you did an internship in China, you went to England to go to grad school. Why are you choosing to fight? And I was like, I don't know, Mom. I love it. I'm enjoying being an athlete.
She's your biggest fan, I tell you that.
100%. Like that's the thing. And so like at first she was just like, so what happened? I don't remember which fight it was, but there was one day where I just decided to shoot her text. And I was like, Mom, like I really enjoy fighting. And she was like, I've seen you do it and I know that you do. And so at that point she was just like, if this is what you want to choose, like it's nothing but support. So my parents have supported me from the beginning, but I know deep down my mom's like, I wish you would choose something different. But I mean, when you see me like in there, I'm usually laughing in the middle of a fight. I'm usually like smiling, laughing, having a good time.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. So it's just like, I didn't get any pushback. My grandmother's the same way. My grandmother will not watch me fight. She will text me good luck. She'll text me afterwards because she'll hear it from one of my uncles or something like that. Somebody reach out to her and be like, hey, he won. And she'll tell me congratulations. But for the most part, yeah, it's been nothing but support. And my family, my parents leave me to kind of make my own decisions. And they know how hard I work at the stuff that I choose to go at. So if I wasn't grinding and working hard the way that they watch me do with football, they would let me know.
Wow.
I get it. I had a former student that's a boxer, and I went to see him box, and I was so nervous, but the mama bear came out, and I was like, get him. All right, watch out, and then I was really, I'm almost at the ring, at the base of the ring, so I get it. And
that's why I tell people she can't, like my parents, I let them go to one fight. I let my mom and them go to one fight when I finally moved to Vegas. It was in Utah. And I was like, look, man, you can just stay home. Like from now on, you can just stay home. You can watch it from home. Cause like my mom is small, but man, the stuff that comes out of her mouth, like when she's watching me play sports, man. So yeah, no, it's been cool. The support has been phenomenal. My parents have been a huge anchor.
That's what's up.
And me being able to chase this, especially like now in the early stages, because I thought it was hard as an amateur, but at this level of professional, it's extremely hard. Okay. Balancing life, finances, because you're not making enough to live really, but then you still have to train. I train twice a day. I'm actually once I get off this call with you guys, I headed to wrestling practice. Okay. And I already did my first session this morning. So it's like you have to balance all of it, and you just have to stay ready for whatever opportunity presents itself. Because one, you have to get paid, but two, you have to still like make a name for yourself. You're still trying to build and grow.
Which I think between four of us, we're confident that you will at the end of the day. Like you're on your way. You're on your way. This is my final question. And like I said, you guys can jump in if you have any other questions after this before we go to our rapid fire. What's the end game, Isaiah? I mean, is it to go to, UFC? What's the end game here at the end of the day, man? Because like I said, man, you're a rising star in my eyes.
I appreciate it. We'll start at the big picture, man. Believe it or not, I'm a kid from the country parts of South Carolina. So the end game, man, is to end up like in the suburbs somewhere with a piece of land and like peace and quiet and tranquility. Fighting wise, I have no idea. UFC is awesome. Like it's here. It's here in Vegas. I've been to the facility, so that would be amazing. but then also like the Asian side lover in me, the kickboxing lover, Muay Thai lover in me is like ONE FC would be a huge opportunity as well. The PFL, great opportunity as well. So with all three organizations, for me, it's really just the end game is to end up in a place that wants me, that sees value in me as a fighter, sees value in me as a stock, and is like, this kid can be something special. And then I definitely do want to get a handful of boxing matches, like for real, for real. I don't want to be the MMA guy who builds a career in MMA and then goes over to boxing for like one big prize fight. But like that is like I do want to be able to put together a boxing career at some point as well.
Mo, I need you to contact Floyd. You know what I'm saying? See if he can put him on, sign him to the money team. You got those connections, Mo. So make that happen for homie.
Hey, he only like welterweights.
But the pad coach down there, man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's amazing because I've been down there to spar with a couple of the heavyweights down there. And so the guy down there who works with the heavyweights has been awesome. I talked to him a couple times. So yeah, it's the end game. Hopefully, is probably going to end up trying to be in boxing at some point, build a little bit of a career in MMA, but actually make a transition over to boxing and be good at it. But also at the end of the day, man, I have like goals for myself, my family, my future family that I want to achieve. And, you don't always know where the road's going to take you. Trust me, like my road to the Citadel was not a straight linear line. Anytime I put a plan together to be like, this is exactly what I want, man, God's always been like, yo, nah, you have a different route to take. And the ending has always been amazing, but the journey has always been a rough one, with twists and turns, and nothing's ever been linear. Like even for me to get here to the PFL has been lots of ups and downs, not sure if I should quit. And, that is one of the downsides of being able to go to work sometimes is because I'm like, man, I can make really good money if I stick with this IT thing. But then, I take a week off. Like I think last year, right before this coach found me, I was about to quit. I was like, man, it's not moving in any direction. It's time for me I'm getting older. It's time for me to sit down and like start making money. And then boom, here we are a year later. So I'm not going to put anything out there. I'm just going to say that like, I want to be champion of the world. Doesn't matter what organization it is. Like I want to be a champion. I want my like end goal is my name to be cemented in a history book, whether it's as a boxer or as an MMA fighter. The same way that I, was able to do that at the Citadel from a team aspect, but also from an individual player aspect.
Mills, your puppy okay? He okay? That's you just looking at seeing what you're seeing what he or she doing.
I just got a new puppy. She's 4 months this weekend. But she is into something. I'm sorry.
What type of puppy?
Just like a mama bear.
I was gonna ask, but I wasn't sure. I was like, Frenchies it's the wave right now, man. Yeah. Everybody's got Frenchies.
Yes.
Everybody's got Frenchies.
I was like, okay, I'm looking away too long. They're gonna think something going on, but she into something.
But look here, Isaiah. You already know what time it is. You might as well go ahead and get yourself prepared for it, man. We're gonna do a little quick rapid fire before we get you on out of here, brother.
All right, see how quick I can pop off some of these answers.
All right, cool. All right, so we're ready, man. So, who would you choose to be on your side in a street fight, in terms of a MMA fighter or a UFC fighter?
John Jones.
Good answer.
Great answer.
Who's the best striker in the UFC?
Israel Adesanya. Like as pure striker is probably got to be Izzy.
Okay. No matter. Forget the last two matches. You're absolutely right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
absolutely.
Izzy. Max Holloway.
All right. Which fighter would you say had the biggest influence on you via UFC or MMA?
John Jones, Israel Adesanya, and a little bit of Evander Holyfield.
Wow.
Which fighter has the best ground game?
Ooh, Charles do Bronx Oliveira.
Okay. Hip hop or R&B?
Hip hop. Country music.
Okay. I ain't mad at that. Something different.
I like some country.
Who has the highest fight IQ?
Izzy.
Okay. I need you to give me one word answers for these three. John Jones.
Great.
Amanda Nunes.
Monster.
Dana White.
Interesting.
There it is, man. You passed.
I like it.
You passed rapid fire with flying colors, brother.
Like
yes,
appreciate it.
Well, look at, man. We want to, and I can speak for all of us. We want to take this opportunity once again to thank you, man, for rocking with us, man. And like I said, hey, you're 3-0. We don't know what the future is going to hold, but guess what? We're going to be rocking with you, and we're going to be supporting you. And you always have a home here at the No Cap Sports Show podcast.
And I'm going to YouTube. I'm going to look at some fights on YouTube.
Yeah,
appreciate you. Yeah, the Challenger Series fight was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's my favorite fight so far. The Denzel fight was a good one too. But for me, it left a lot for me to desire. Like I needed to do a little bit more. And
but that's good. I mean, you're self-aware. You
Absolutely.
know what you need to work on. You know what it takes, right? So, just keep going.
Which I'm impressed with.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Mills, go ahead and get us on out of here, sister.
Hey, Isaiah, thank you so much for being a guest tonight. We appreciate you so much and wish you the best of luck on the rest of your career. Can't wait to see when you slide over to the boxing side.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This has been the No Cap Sports Show, where convo and conversation. What is it? I'm messing our thing up.
Sports and combos collide.
My mind is on the dog, y'all. I'm sorry. We're sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're sports and combos collide.
I have never messed that up, Isaiah. I just want you to know.
It is all good. But next time we do this, you gotta get it right.
I'm going to get it right next time. Listen. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, man.
Thank you guys for having me,
brother.
All right.
There are 4 fouls on the play.
That's why it took so long.
Running into the kicker, number 34 in the kick receiving team. Holding.
Authentic.
Number 95.